If you look at this picture, this is what we were doing in our most recent unit. If you look at this picture, this is what we'll be doing in this unit. Think about this. What is the difference between this picture and this picture? Well, with this picture, we were able to find a length and a width, but that's it, right? And what we found was called area. But if we look at this, it has length and it has width, but it also has this, right? So what we have is here we have two dimensions, a length and a width. Here we have a length, a width, and a height. So this is 3 dimensions. And here we can find area, which is how much room is taken up in length and width. But here we can find something called volume. So let's get started with our key points. Volume is the number of cubic units or cubes, think sugar cubes, needed to fill a solid figure. Volume is measured in cubic units. If it helps you to remember that, think of sugar cubes. Volume is measured in sugar cubes, cubic units. So let's look at this. What is the volume of this? Well, that's easy. It is 1 sugar cube, right? What is the volume of this? It is 8 cubic units, or sugar cubes. This one's a little bit trickier. How many sugar cubes make up this picture? How many cubic units? What do you think? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But guess what? In order for this one to be up in the air, there has to be one that it's sitting on, right? Ah, so it is actually 6 cubic units. I want you to take a look at the investigation on your notes. Dixie Crystal Sugar Company makes sugar cubes. How many 1 centimeter sugar cubes can fit inside of box 1? Like, how many total can fit in this box? Not how many's in it, but how many would fit in it if it was full. And then how many would fit in this box if it was full? Pause the investigation, and I want you to complete that. And I want you to have something written right here for box 1 and right here for box 2. I will be checking that, but I'm not going to give you the answer. Pause the video now and do your work. Moving on to the key points. A rectangular prism is a solid 3D object with 6 rectangular sides or faces. All sides meet at right angles. So if you think of a rectangular prism, think of a rectangle that is a 3D object. So you can see that this has rectangular sides and it is 3-dimensional. So is this. So a rectangular prism is what we most often think of as a box. The way that we find the volume of a rectangular prism is we look for how many cubes could fit inside of that box. The way that we find out how many cubes can fit inside that box is by multiplying length times width, so length times width times height. There's another way that we can do that. We can multiply the base times height. So what that means is that base is the same as length times width. So if we say base times height, that's because it's just a quicker way of saying it instead of saying all of the measurements. So if we look at this, it has a base of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cubes, and we can multiply that times the height to find its volume. How many layers make up this prism? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many cubes are in each layer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what then is the volume of the figure? Well, if there are 6 here, 6 here, 6 here, and 6 here, I could do 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. But the quicker way of doing that would be to multiply it times 4, which is its height, and 6 times 4 gives me 24 cubes. Let's look at example number 1. Find the volume of the rectangular prism below using layers. Well, there's a couple of ways that I could split it. I could split it like this, but that's a lot to count, right? So instead, I'm going to split it like this. It's a little bit easier to count because I can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 in each layer. How many layers do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 layers. So 9 times 6 would give me 54. So there are 54, and I'm going to put CU for cubic units. Example number 2. A box measures 11 inches long by 2 inches wide. So 11 goes this way, 2 goes this way, and the height of the box is 4 inches. What is the volume? Well, volume equals base times height. So to get my base, I'm going to multiply this times this. So I get 11 times 2, which is 22. And then I have to multiply times the height, which is 4. So 22 times 4 gives me 88. Your Stop and Jot says the volume of the box is 88 inches cubed. What does this tell us about the box? What do you think? What does 88, a volume of 88, mean? Think about what we were just talking about. What does volume measure? Pause and write your answer. I will be checking your answer. All right. So, one last thing before we move on to Socrative. If you were given this prism and you were asked to find the volume of this prism, and they told you that it has a base of 30, and all they show you on the picture is 7, how could you find the volume using that information? Well, if volume equals, and this is not on your paper, base times height, then we actually have all of the information that we need, right? They tell us the base is 30. They show us that the height is 7. So to find the volume, all we have to do is multiply those numbers. You don't actually have to do that, but I just want you to know that if they tell you the area of the base and they give you the height, that's all of the information you need. You don't always need 3 measurements because the base is already 2 measurements combined. It is length and width. All right, I do expect you to complete Socrative. There is a new logon process, so when it is time, please make sure you are tracking the board and paying attention to those instructions.